Hey, it's Ben with Lions SRD here. Really quickly, thanks for stopping by. And if you want to catch our other shows here on sportsradiodetroit.com, like Out of Bounds, the SRD Road Show, Laugh Tracks, Spinning the Wheels, any of our great selections, you easily can. Just go to Apple's iTunes, Spotify, right here on Podbeam. You can go directly to the website, sportsradiodetroit.com, and basically get all the content you want. We just appreciate you stopping by, and if you like it, give us a good review so other people can find it. Now, Lions SRD.
SportsRadioDetroit.com.
Let's go out and leave it all on the field. It's going to start with us. We got to make plays in order for us to win. All you got to do is do your assignment, nothing more. Let's go. Playmakers on three. 1, 2, 3, playmakers.
Matthew leans in. He's got it. Wants to throw. Pressure comes set at the screen. Got it to Riddick. Riddick to 15. Riddick 10. Riddick 5. Riddick end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. He's to Abdullah right side. Got a hole. Abdullah 20. Abdullah 10. Shakes the man at the 8 and dances into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Action fake. He's going to throw. Loads does. It is picked up by Lions. Coming back the other way off the deflection. Glover Quinn. Back to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, baby, a big takeaway for 6. 38 seconds left. Bradford's got it on third down. Sets it, throws. It is intercepted. Darius Slay's got it at the 30. Slay inside the 25. Matthews got it. Looks right. Throws. Caught. Golden Tate. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Barkley takes the snap. Back to pass. Looks. Rolling. Hit. Still alive. Now he's not. Going down. Sack. Back outside the 50-yard line. Terry Hyder's got it. Backing up. Looking for somewhere to go. Stafford is going to tuck it and run. Stafford at the 5. 3, 2, 1. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, Matthew took it home.
Lions SRD on SportsRadioDetroit.com.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lions SRD, where we actually have Joe Flacco looking like he's an elite football player. Out of nowhere. Big surprise, I don't know, you tell me. I'm Ben Salagi, joined with, every week, Marty Stafford all the way out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Marty, that game was awful in every way, shape, and form. What were your thoughts on it?
Purely disgusted. I mean, I let's face it. I said before it wouldn't surprise me if Joe Flacco turned it on, and that's exactly what happened. Which, okay, I'm fine with. Whatever. Flacco's a Super Bowl MVP. He's a pretty steady quarterback. He just has an issue with his line and his weapons. Well, wouldn't you know it? The line and his weapons showed up in Detroit. Like I was so disgusted by the end of that game that I didn't even want to finish watching it, but I did, like an idiot.
I was gonna say, I hope you turned it off. That would have been awesome.
No, I didn't. I pay too much money to DirecTV in order for me to turn that off.
Call him up. I'm done. What do you mean you're done? I'm done watching this guy. No, I'm kidding. Sir, we don't care about what Jim Caldwell's doing. It's not him. It's everyone else. No, but I mean, when I almost turned it off too, but obviously I can't. We do this show every week. So the thing that irritates me in everything is you see the same stuff all over again, right? Like I feel Lions SRD may be a broken record. Still no run game. There's still no semblance of a good scheme from Jim Bob Cooter. And this defense, the lack of a pass rush, is what's killing these guys. I mean, that's why Joe Flacco was able to get away with what he did. He's not going to get hit. He's not going to run for his life. He has no pressure and no inkling of pressure that someone's going to knock him on his behind. So, yes, guys like Mike Wallace and other Raven wide receivers can catch the football. And here's something that was really, really disheartening. It's not that they were making plays. They were making big plays. The Ravens entered the game, Marty, at 32 in the league in passing offense. They averaged 165 yards a game. We're talking, 13 weeks, 14 weeks of football? No, it was 13 because this is week 14. So 13 weeks of football. The only thing Joe Flacco, Mr. Am I Elite or Not, could muster was 165. 165 passing yards through 12. And then in week 13, he gets more than that in a half. He outplays the highest paid quarterback in the league. I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. At least to me, that's just, and I know Matthew Stafford doesn't have a run game. He sometimes sails footballs. His offensive line is now a patchwork offensive line. I get it, there's excuses out there, but there should be no way in hell a guy for 12 weeks just dominates the way that he did. Yes, Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl. Yes, he's been league MVP. I get it. But also I get this. Jim Caldwell has familiarity with Joe Flacco. He was his offensive coordinator when he won the Super Bowl. You don't think you don't know his tendencies that you can tell Terrell Austin? And if you are, what does that say about Terrell Austin as a defensive coordinator? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why everything – and I said – and the funny thing is, I promised people at the end of last week's show, if the Lions lost, I would lose my mind. And I'm starting to lose my mind, Marty. Like, I am. Like, it's something that, on paper, this team should have went 5-0 in the last 5 games. They should have even put up a fight in Baltimore. They are 4-1 on the road. They are a better road team than they are at home for whatever reason. They don't like the renovations at Ford Field. And here you are in Baltimore just laying an egg. You don't even put up a fight. This is something that has been an issue for multiple weeks, and I wanted to find the audio from Jim Caldwell, but I mean, we have one where he talks about sense of urgency, but in the entire first quarter, almost in a half, you're getting outscored 46-3 in certain games. Like, come on, do something. And his answer is, oh, it's just coaching. Well, if it's coaching, A, do your job. B, if it's coaching and you can't get it fixed, why are you still here? Why in God's green earth at the end of the year do you deserve to keep your job? Feel free to interrupt me because I want to get your thoughts, because this is someone, as we know, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. And that's like my role on the show. I'm like, that North Star that you can kind of just be like, okay, we can get kind of off course here, but that's what we're going to get out of Ben. I'm done. I've had it. Like I said at the end of last week's show, you can go 5-0, 4-1 is fine, but not this way at 4-1. You didn't even put up a fight in Baltimore. They roughed you up and roughed you around. It's inexcusable.
It is, and it's funny that he says a sense of urgency when he shows absolutely none at all.
Right.
This is how many games in a row where the first quarter or first half the offense has come out looking just pathetic, and I can't even blame the running game because we don't have one, and it's beating a record. So I'm not even going to put it on them. And I'm going to slam Stafford just once. It doesn't happen very often, but when you're the highest paid damn quarterback in the league, you need to make something happen. If it's not Marvin Jones, you go to Tate. If it's not Tate, you find someone that's clicking. And the running game ain't going to do nothing. So it becomes an incumbent on him, and he did nothing in that first half. Nothing. He looked so bad. He was so bad in that first half. It was reminiscent of my guy Joey Harrington, a guy who I will always cheer for, just for the sheer fact that I liked him so much at Oregon, and I was happy when the Lions drafted him. But the facts are Harrington was crap, and that's exactly what Stafford reminded me of on Sunday in that first half. It was deplorable. It was so bad. Like I hung my head in shame, saying, "This man is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now."
Yep.
And the way he played, he shouldn't be. Now, he rebounded, somewhat in the second half, but that first half should have never looked the way it did with those receivers, with that quarterback. Never should have looked like that. So I'm right there with you, Ben.
Well, and here's the thing, and we're actually going to dive in to the first topic because Jim Bob Cooter is leaving much to be desired. And when you're down 17-0 and you're not taking downfield shots, which I can understand to a point, but you're not even running slants. You're not even running quick passing routes. You're not running comeback routes for Matt Stafford. You know what you're running? Bubble screens, which, yes, do take the place of a running game. I get it, but this is something I don't get, and this is what happened. After the Ravens scored to go up 17-0, this is how it all transpired. Shotgun, Tion Green left to Detroit. They got 2 yards. Matthew Stafford, next play, 2nd down and 8. Gets a short right pass to Golden Tate for 9 yards. Awesome. So you're at, what? 1st down and 10. Tion Green, 1 yard, because you know that it's a handoff to the left-hand side. So that's what he did. Handoff to the left guard. Then Matthew Stafford has to scramble for his life and finally falls into his own player down at the 1 yard line. 3rd down and 8. 7-yard sack. 4th and 15, you punt the football away. Defense holds in 6 plays. You get the ball back, and this is what kills me. Because it was a short pass to Theo Riddick. For what? -4 yards when the Lions started at their own 13-yard line. So what do you think they're going to do? Probably pass, right, Marty? You're right. That's what they do. But it's a short pass to Eric Ebron for 2 yards. Baltimore then takes a timeout because they know they can and they have the field position. Next, Matthew Stafford, yet again, scrambles. Taylor Decker holds. It's declined. Stafford gets a yard. And that was on 3rd down and 12. And then you have Sam Martin who only punts to the 45. And then 3 plays, Baltimore comes right back and it's 20-0 right at the end of the half. I mean, this is, at this point, yes. I know it's something that players have to execute. Coaches can't go on the field and execute for you. And I've had this conversation with, Dan and the guys at Out of Bounds when I was on their show on Monday when, we got into something over Michigan and Ohio State. But there has to come to a point, especially when you're the highest paid player in the league, where you have to execute. Granted, that first drive is execution. That second drive I was talking about, that is poor play calling. And here's what's worse about it, Marty. At the end of the half, what did the Lions do when they got the ball back? They scored.
They scored.
7 plays. 7 plays in 2.5 minutes. They make it look easy. And then they stall out again.
Well, it also took a huge injury on Baltimore's behalf for the Lions to get back into it. Let's not overlook the importance of Jimmy Smith because he was shutting down Marvin Jones. So that took a huge bite out of their defense. And that's what really started the ball rolling for Detroit. But why are we waiting for an injury or a call or whatever for this to happen? Listen, I understand Jimmy Smith and people won't call him elite. I will because he shuts down receivers. He's an elite cornerback. I get it. Ladarius Webb, not so much. Marlon Humphrey, not so much. It took them starting Marlon Humphrey against Marvin Jones, which is an unfair matchup when you think about it. That's what it took for them to start moving the ball. It was embarrassing. We had to pick on a rookie, which that's what you do. You play the matchups. I get it. But it took that matchup to happen for the offense to start clicking. Mm-hmm. It was embarrassing.
Well, right, and that's another thing too, because as an offensive coordinator, it is your job to create mismatches. It is. Bottom line. You have to put your players.
That's why I feel he's nowhere near ready to be a head coach.
And that's fair. That is completely fair. JBC. When you asked me, what was that? I think it was now a month ago, why the Lions' running game isn't so good, and I said it's scheme. This is the proof of it. This is the absolute proof that scheme does not work. It doesn't. The scheme, for whatever reason, is not working because you're not taking advantage of the mismatches. You're not using guys that are fast like Marvin Jones or, hell, even Golden Tate to run a quick slant route. Do something. Have Ebron, and I will say this, Ebron the last 4 weeks, for as much flack as he gets in this town, he's actually catching footballs. He's actually making plays. It's great. It's fun. It's fantastic.
And he doesn't look terrible blocking either.
Exactly. But, He's a mismatch for every linebacker on the field. He is. Why aren't you running him across a linebacker's face? It's something that it's just so simplistic. And yes, I understand when people get when he tries to run the football and you can't. You have to keep people honest. And it's something that's really weird because NFL Matchup does these tweets on Monday because they all review the film. Matthew Stafford's number 1 in the league in passer rating off play action fakes. I know when you hear that, you're going to be like, no. Look it up on Twitter. That's where I saw it. I looked at it. I was like, don't believe it. But, I trust the guys at NFL Matchup. Greg Cosell does a great job for NFL Films and ESPN. He does. His father's Howard Cosell. You know you're going to get quality there. But, it's just, it boggles my mind. And something else that boggles my mind, we're just going to go right into the second segment, is it happened again. Lions don't have all 11 players on the field. And it's something again. Jim Caldwell says, hey, it's coaching. I take responsibility for it. Okay. Well, here's what Terrell Austin had to say about it, too.
It's me. I'm in charge of the defense, so if there's not enough guys out there, that's me.
But you're up in the booth.
It's not enough guys out there, it's me.
Can you explain
There's no explanation needed. It's been, Jim's covered it. Bottom line is, if I'm in charge of the defense and something goes wrong with the defense, it's on me.
We've talked about the number of combinations you guys have had on defense, at the top of the league. What are the risks of moving guys on and off the field, the communication, and how do you
Now, it happened. We've had 2 issues probably all year, and they happen to be in the last 2 weeks. And so I don't think it's a problem. I think we just had a miscommunication. And again, it falls on me. It's my job to get it fixed, and it will be fixed.
Jim said it was on him, though.
Well, I'm in charge of the defense, so I'm going to take this one. Right? I understand Jim's in charge of the whole team, so obviously as a head coach, if I was ever in that position, I would take that for my team. But the bottom line is I'm in charge of the defense, and what I put out there, whether they play well, play poorly, have enough, don't have enough, at the end of the day, that falls back on me because I'm in charge of that side of the ball. And so it's something I've got to get fixed. And it will be fixed.
Can you explain why he?
No, there's no need to hash that thing over. It's done. It's done. I've answered in terms of how, who's in charge of it, and it's going to be fixed.
Terrell Austin says the exact same thing, and he even says, I appreciate Coach for taking the blame for me, but it's my fault. And I need to get it fixed, and it will get fixed. Here's the thing that I have an issue with. Why wasn't it fixed the first time? Why is it happening again? Again, this is the coordinator's job. And that's why it was weird, and we talked about how weird it was last week, that both these coordinators were being in contention for coaching jobs. Granted, it was in the college ranks, but now you kind of get the idea that both these guys, especially JBC, is not ready to take over an NFL head job, which I know a lot of people thought, hey, if you're not going to get Caldwell, at least you can make JBC the head coach. This is why that's stupid. Both of these guys not earning their paychecks. And at this point, you can start to question if Bob Quinn's earning his paycheck because Jim Caldwell got a contract extension. That, again, yes, was kept secret from the fans, which you would think Martha is different than her husband, but that is something totally Senior would do. He would sign someone in secret, not let anyone know about it, and then just be like, oh, yeah, this is why we didn't have a coaching search. I signed him to an extension 10 weeks ago. That's a classic Lions move under old management. So, you can say on Sunday, all 3 or 4 of those guys, Jim Caldwell included, maybe 5 if you want to include Matthew Stafford, these guys are not earning their contracts. They're not earning their keep. And it's something that's just beyond aggravating. It is. Because you would think by now, this late in the year, entering week 14, playoffs are staring you in the face. You're not in a position like you were last year where you can back in. You have to fight your way forward. And here's another thing that's disheartening. Minnesota's still not losing. And Green Bay, who luckily you beat on the road, is getting Aaron Rodgers back in week 15. He's coming back, folks. He's coming back in 2 weeks. He gets a tune-up game, and then he gets his revenge game at Ford Field, where he can laugh and have the Packers in position to still be a playoff team. And you know what? Hate to say it, but there's history there where you like those odds. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, the final game of Week 17, is going to just stomp on your throat. He's going to do it. He's going to do it with the 13 screws in his shoulder, and he's going to do it with the 2 screws in his collarbone. It is going to happen. Because why? Coaching is showing it's inept, and this team can't stop anybody. I mean, Dwight Freeney, when he came in, thank God, because it's not all doom and gloom. When he actually came in, he looked serviceable. He looked better than what you would anticipate. So there is bright side there. But at some point, when are we going to see responsibility being taken from anybody that I mentioned? Because you can all say, yeah, you can blame me. That's fine. I'll take the arrows. You can take all the arrows you want. At some point, maybe move and you don't get hit by an arrow. Make an adjustment. Do something, and maybe those flings of arrows don't kill you. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Marty? Like, are you just sick and tired of hearing people just saying, yeah, that's my responsibility, and it not getting corrected for the same issues that happen week in and week out? We talked about the running game. We've talked about that. We've talked about scheme and play calling. Now we're talking about not even having 11 guys on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same old, same old. You can tell they're all reading the same script from the same playwright, and it's like they're all trying to be the leading role, but none of them are quite good enough to be Tom Cruise. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ben, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a football mind. I don't know what they need to do to take ownership of it. But coming out and saying, hey, that's on me, that's only half the battle. I mean, my God, you have to get your guys on the field. You have to get them in position. You absolutely have to. One of the guys I was watching because I was hoping to see some improvement this week was my guy Jared Davis. Ben, you know how high I am on him.
Yep, you love him.
He didn't look good either.
No.
Now, I don't know if that's because the coaching staff just had him out of position. I don't know if it was because he was trying to track Collins and not fill the gap. I don't know what Davis was thinking, but he was out of position so often that it was ridiculous. I mean, they started to hear Whitehead over him because Jared Davis he's just kind of fallen off a little bit. And I understand he's a rookie; he's going to learn. There's got to be a time when you just say, okay, I have to rely on my instincts and stop thinking so much, because that's what Davis is going to do. He's got to rely on his instincts, and he's got to play better. But nobody on the defense outside of Slay looked serviceable. I mean, they all looked just lost, abysmal. And you're right, something needs to change, but I mean, I don't know what more he can do. What more Austin can do other than say, hey, I'm trying to make adjustments and it's just not working. I don't know. I don't know what his answer is, but yeah, I'm sick of them beating the same old drum, man.
Yeah, and here's where I can see where it gets a little frustrating, right? If it's earlier in the season, where these rookies like Reeves-Maben, Davis, Tabor, guys that are first-year players, hell, you can put Killebrew in there if you want. In that, where it's a second-year player, that's fine. At some point, though, and this is something that you hear in college circles all the time, well, it's week 9. You're not a freshman anymore. Well, this is the pros. You're literally getting paid to do a job. Yes, there's a learning curve. There's an adjustment. I'm not saying that there isn't. But you need to adjust quicker. And that's where I think it might be the coaching. And this is a question that I know it's not in our rundown sheet, Marty, and I apologize for that, but I want to get your gut reaction because it just came to me. Because you're a guy that, and you and I have talked about this off air, and we've even talked about it on this show. For right now, we know Jim Caldwell is going to be a Detroit Lion head coach. Would you be okay if he was still the head coach and you got new coordinators?
Yes.
Do you think that would kind of absolve Jim Caldwell of some of these faults from the last basically year and a half? I
don't know if it would absolve him, but I mean, it would. Listen, and I'll go to my grave with this. I said it last week. I'm standing by Caldwell because I don't like the potential coaching replacements that are out there. You know, you're hearing guys like Todd Haley, Ken Wisenhunt, who I was big on when they hired Caldwell. But, you know, I've kind of not soured on him, but I've kind of gotten away from Wisenhunt. Like, I don't like any of the guys that are potential replacements. I don't think they're good. There's not a lot of defensive-minded coaches, which is exactly what I think this team needs, rather than an offensive coach. I don't like any of the replacements. So, yeah, I'm going to stand by Caldwell. I think new coordinators needs to happen, to be honest. And I'm surprised it hasn't happened already because pretty much ever since Nada went down, as we talked about, that defense has not been that Detroit Lions defense that it was the first 5 weeks of the season. So, I mean, yeah, injury plays a part in it, sure. But just because you're taking Nada's place doesn't mean you have to be Haloti Nada. You got to go out there and, you know, A'Shawn Robinson, I love this kid. I absolutely love him. He doesn't show up big on the stat sheet, but, man, does he make plays. He's got his hands in – if he can't get to the quarterback, he's got the hands in the air. He's always around the ball. He's always trying to do something. And it seems like he's the only interior defensive lineman that's actually trying. Now, I know that's not true. I know they're all trying. But for appearance sake, it looks like it's only A'Shawn Robinson. If you're only pulling talent out of 1.5 linemen, and I'll say half because Zettle's been getting double-teamed quite a bit because he's been the only pass rusher, you're getting at max effort, appearance-wise, out of 1.5 players. That's not good. You know, and I know Ziggy was out there, and you know he got hurt again. You have no other defensive tackle to pair up with A'Shawn Robinson because the rest of the guys, that's all they are. They're just guys. They're not special. Now, if Kerry Hyder's there, are we singing the same song? I don't know. I mean, is Kerry Hyder that big of a difference? I tend to think he is based off what he did last year, but it's just something needs to change, and I don't think I've ever in my life called for a coaching change in the middle of the year, but Terrell Austin's got to go. JBC has got to go. One of them's got to go right now. One of them's got to go at the end of the season. You don't want to change everything up right at once.
Well, right. And that was going to be my follow-up question. Which one would you want first gone? Because, I mean, granted, yes, there is issues with Jim Bob Cooter's scheme. There is. I mean, we've talked about it. It's been highlighted before. You can see it with your own eyes.
Yep.
But also Matthew Stafford doesn't throw a lot of interceptions with JBC. He's thrown more with Scott Linehan. He threw more with Mike Martz. You know, it at least JBC is, and maybe that's just JBC's scheme and being conservative, and that's why there hasn't been a lot of interceptions on Matthew Stafford's part. Maybe
I think that's part of it. I think it's also because he speaks the same language. He's a former quarterbacks coach.
Yeah.
Stafford's clearly comfortable with him. They clearly have a very good rapport. So I think that's part of it. But I don't know. I think I'd rather see Jim Bob stay than Austin, I guess, because to me it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. Stafford has earned enough sachet, whatever word you want to use. I don't know. He's earned enough leeway where he can go out there and kind of call whatever offense he wants. He's in that category as far as what offense he wants to run out there. He can audible and do all that things. So to me, it doesn't matter what offensive coordinator's out there. We need someone that's going to – because we know we're getting everything we can out of that offense. It's just not always clicking. You're going to have drop passes. You're going to have missed assignments. I get that. We're not getting all that out of the defense. You're not getting max effort out of that defensive line. You're not getting it out of the linebackers. You're not, well, let me put it this way. You're not getting max production. You're probably getting max effort. These guys probably are trying their hardest. I understand that it's not everybody can do it. I get it. But I'd rather see Terrell Austin go because we've been hearing the same thing for how many years now. He's a great defensive mind. He's a great defensive mind. Well, that defense is good in spurts. And then it's like, I swear to God, it's like they all just sit back and go, oh, wait a minute, we're Detroit. We're not supposed to be a good defensive team. And then that's what they resort to. So I'd rather see Austin gone than JBC, but at the end of the year, I to be honest with you, I want them both gone.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask you because I mean this is something too. We were lauding the defense the first 4 games. I mean this defense was causing turnovers. Everything seemed good. And granted, yeah, I mean this is when Haloti Ngata was playing. He was healthy.
Yep.
It's not just that's why like I have an issue with like why this has dropped off so suddenly because one man does not make a defense. It doesn't. Like, yes, it helps a young guy like Gerard Davis. It does. I mean, you're going to have Haloti Ngata eating up 2 guys guaranteed, and Davis can play off of it. I get that. But it's not like that doesn't help the outside linebackers all that much because guys like Ziggy Ansah who barely play, whoever's in front of them, like Zidell, I mean, if you want to double team Anthony, fine. But at some point, Whitehead or Reeves-Maybin has to come off the edge and do something. Like,
Yep.
Or whoever, Paul Warlow, or whoever is your linebacker there. I mean, there has to, Ballore, it doesn't matter. Anyone. Like, there has to be a scheme there as well. And you're right. I mean, that's why, like, it's just so weird that we're talking about this when this defense is one of the best scoring defenses in the NFL, has caused more turnovers than they did last year. I mean, this is all the things that we were talking about, breathing hot and heavy, getting excited about, because it's something that we haven't seen the Detroit Lions do in quite some time. And now we're talking about this. And, I mean, it's within good reason. And like I said, it's not like Haloti Ngata, losing him, the entire defense falls apart. It's not, a defense is never a house of cards where if you remove one thing, then everything falls apart. Now, you can say, yeah, well, we're removing Kerry Hyder, like Marty, you pointed out. Yes, you can say that. You're removing Ziggy Ansah because he's constantly injured. You can say that too. But again, at some point, you have to step up. And that's why I also say maybe at points, Bob Quinn's not doing his job. Didn't try to find a late-round pick for a pass rush, which makes you think, if he's thinking that way, either A, some didn't grade out well, or B, he's looking to extend Ansah, or maybe he's looking for a reason to extend Ansah. So far,
no, I gotta disagree with that one because
Go ahead.
he took the kid out of Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, but that was the last. Pat O'Connor was the last pick in the 7th
Right,
round.
but you said a late round pass rusher, and that's what the kid did. I mean, he set, I don't know, school records or conference records, whatever. I mean, that's, hey, I don't care if that guy can't stop the run as a rookie. If he's there for a pass rush, get him out there. Where is he now? I don't even think he's on the practice squad. I mean, you got to roll the dice. I mean, Ziggy wasn't getting it done, so they went out and signed. And I'm high on the signing because I like the guy. I think he can help, but I don't want to see Dwight Freeney out there every snap because Ziggy Ansah can't get off the injury report. That's not what Dwight Freeney should be doing at his age. He shouldn't be an every down player. He should be rotating in and out with somebody. Which, you know, if all you're going to do is have him be a good pass or be a pass rusher, you need to get a legit run stuffer on the other side. You don't have anything right now, and it's baffling. Ziggy Ansah goes down and there's no pass rush. Really? Like what? I don't understand where all the pass rush goes if one guy goes down, because you know we've seen Zettel can do it, but again he's getting double teamed, so you pretty much take him out because he's getting eaten by 2 linemen. But that should be Akeem Spence. That should be, and it's never been part of his game, but Ashawn Robinson should potentially be getting in there. Something's got to give on this defensive line, and something's got to break the right way. Let me rephrase that. Eventually, the ship has to get righted. But I mean, we're literally now relying on a 6th round pick in Zettel and a free agent 38-year-old defensive end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why? Why are we relying on and look, we all know I'm a Zettel guy. I love the kid. I want to see him as a defensive end for this team for a long, long time. He's not a pass rusher. That's not his thing. He was a run stuffer at Penn State. That's what he's supposed to be here. You need someone to rush the passer. They don't do it with the linebackers, so you got to find someone to replace Ziggy, so the fragile Ziggy Ansah, and they're not doing it. I would have loved to see Pat O'Connor as even on just pass rush situations, something, but it's just they've done nothing with it. So again, I apologize. I had to disagree.
You're fine.
They did take a pass rusher. It just didn't pan out for whatever reason.
You're right. Pat O'Connor's not on this roster. He's not on the practice squad either. And Marty, you know me. I don't mind if you disagree with me. My word is not gospel by any means. So that's completely fair. And it's something that, you know, I think we've kind of hit on this, but really quickly, do you still have faith that this is a playoff team? Because I know last week you said that this team could still go 3-2, which would still be hopefully in the realm of the playoffs. Do you still have those hopes, or are those hopes going by the wayside?
I don't think they're a playoff. If they lost a close game, or if it was a fluky loss, like when they lost to the Falcons, I would say yes, they're still a playoff team. But after they just got their asses handed to them by a mediocre Baltimore team, no, I can't say they're a playoff team. I don't think they're very far away from being a consistent one, but there's a lot of changes that need to happen for that to occur.
No, that's completely fair. I think if you've been listening to this podcast, you know where I stand, and I don't think this Lions team is a playoff team. I mean, thank God, as of right now, the NFC South is starting to cannibalize itself. The Falcons are the only team ahead of the Lions somehow, because this is what the playoff picture looks like. It didn't really change from last week. Vikings and Eagles, 1-2, as they should be. They're both 10-2, very, very good. Panthers, 6th seed at 8-4. 5th seed, 8-4 is the Seahawks. The Rams at 9-3 is your 3rd seed. The Saints is your 4th seed. And then you have the Falcons at 7-5. And then you have the Lions as the 8th seed, ahead of the Packers, ahead of the Cowboys, ahead of the Redskins. And you have a big tilt tonight on Thursday night, with the Falcons and Saints. You have to hope the Saints win that one if you're a Lions fan. You really do. And I guarantee you're going to be listening to this on a Friday or Saturday. It's just what it is. But you have to hope the Saints win, because if not, you have more chaos, and you need a lot of help. You really do. And it's just something that I know I said I would play that sense of urgency clip because it really seems like there hasn't been a sense of urgency. Here's Jim Caldwell with the sense of urgency, since we just talked about the playoff picture.
I'm not certain even our first game there's a sense of urgency. The first game of the season, the second, the third, every single game is there's a sense of urgency. Circumstances may change, in that regard, but in how we approach it, those kinds of things, that does not change. And that's a great thing about coaching, really, to be honest with you. This time of the year, in certain situations, you get a real sense of the essence of the human spirit within your guys and staff and those kinds of things. So it's a real good challenge, and thankfully I got a healthy disregard for what other people might think is impossible. So that helps as well.
And really quickly, just because it's fair, 97 won the tickets. Jeff Rieger asked at the press conference if he cares about the criticism that we all give Jim Caldwell. This was his answer to that as well.
The first year I was coaching, those kinds of things are going on. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the business, plain and simple. And if you can't handle it, you got to get into another line of work, And so I've been at it a while, so I'm fairly accustomed to that kind of stuff.
All right, one final thing to be negative about, and then we'll end this thing on a high note. But Matthew Stafford had his hand stepped on by Terrell Suggs in the the third quarter, fourth quarter of the
fourth.
Fourth quarter of last week's game. And this is a guy, and X-rays were negative, thank God, because if it were positive, those playoff hopes we just talked about, out the window. But having said that, they were negative. Matthew Stafford started to begin throwing in Thursday's practice. He's had limited practice the past 2 days. If you look at the injury report, which still has TJ Lang on not practicing, you still have Ziggy Ansah not practicing, and you have Rick Wagner also not practicing. So life's fun on the injury report for the Detroit Lions as well. And they still haven't, all three of those guys I just mentioned have not practiced on Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe they do Friday. I honestly think TJ Lang's getting the Calvin Johnson treatment, where they're just resting him, and then they'll go from there. But that injury sucks. I mean, Matthew Stafford, obviously you need him at 100%. Last year he didn't have 100% because he had an injured finger on his throwing hand, and that affected things. Now you have a hand that's severely bruised, and it's, again, in a playoff stretch. Right when you saw that happen, did your life flash before your eyes, Marty? Because it kind of did for me.
Oh, absolutely it did, because this team can't win without him. I don't care what anybody says. You can't put not Dan Orlovsky, good God.
Well,
You can't put
I was going to say, you can't put Dan Orlovsky out there because he's no longer on the team.
you can't put Jake Rudock out there and expect the kid to go out and do something, because, with a young player, you want to kind of bring them along slowly and kind of play to their strengths. But, he has no running game to lean on. So you can't expect Jake Rudock to go out there and play like Matt Stafford, because he's not Matt Stafford. He's going to go out there and he's going to get obliterated. He didn't even look good in his limited time and garbage time against Baltimore. So without Stafford, there is no playoff hopes. With Stafford, there's a slim hope. I don't see it happening, but there is a slim hope. They don't win without him. Period. And it's just because he's one of those players. He played like garbage on Sunday, but when have you ever heard me say that about Stafford, Ben? Never. I've never taken him to task.
Right.
This week I had to. I don't think they do anything without him. I mean, they can't even say, well, at least we have Amir to kind of take some pressure off of Rudock, or hey, we have Theo Riddick. No, we don't have a consistent run game. So I mean, if it's going to be Jake Rudock, season's over, and I'm still going to be supporting him, because that's what a fan does. But it's realistically, they're not going to do anything with Jake Rudock.
Yeah, you're doing yeoman's work if you're still supporting him with Jake Rudock, and rightfully so. But yeah, I mean, there's a video on ESPN.com in the Lions section if you want to see it. I'm sure it's on social media if you want to watch it there as well. But he has no zip on that football, and I don't know if in the next couple of days, if that swelling goes down, that he will. I guarantee he'll play with a glove on his hand. But yeah, it's right now not good enough. So there's no zip on the football. It's looking pretty bad, but it is what it is. And finally, though, like I said, we were going to end this podcast, end this game. We're not playing games here on Lions SRD, but there was a bright spot. Marty, I know you. I'm not going to call you a Tion Green truther, but you were curious about Tion Green and what he was going to bring to the table. I know I kind of was at some point, just being like, yeah, what would Tion Green do? Well, wasn't that bad. Lions leading rusher Tion Green had one touchdown, and the longest run, it was, I believe, his first carry was the 33-yard carry.
Yep.
And only had 11 carries for 51 yards, but still was the most productive team. I know on Sunday he said, when he was given the ball in the red zone and goal line situations, he said, that's all I did at Cincinnati. I'm surprised they waited to use me like that. And I just go back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We all are. We're all surprised. I mean, we're 31st, possibly not even 32nd in red zone and short yardage efficiency. Mm-hmm. We've got a guy where that was his role in college, and he's just now seeing the field in week 13 because of, surprise, surprise, another injury to Amir Abdullah. I mean, this is where the coaching staff, this is where I don't understand them. I mean, the kid's ready to go. Is he dynamic? We don't know. You're not getting anything out of Amir. You're not even using Theo Riddick the way you did last year in a passing game. He's been relatively non-existent.
Right.
You got to do something. And you know what? That offense looked, I don't want to say it started to click, but it looked better with Tion Green out there. And it's to me, I think that production, 11 carries, 51 yards, and a touchdown, I think that earns him at least a spot start just to see if he can keep it going. We know we're going to get out of Amir and Theo Riddick. Not much. What do you have to lose at this point? Or at the very least, start Zenner and have Tion Green be the backup and only bring in Theo Riddick on obvious passing downs, because we know that's all he's going to do. Something's got to give, and maybe Tion Green is the guy that gets the ball rolling figuratively. It's time. He's surprised it took this long, and so are anybody that's been paying attention to this roster.
Who knows? He may be like Zach Center was last year. He plays in the final 3-4 games and looks like an all-star. I don't know. I mean, at this point, let's just use the spaghetti theory, as I call it. Throw it to the wall, see if it sticks. It can't get much worse. As you said, You have players banged up in Amir Abdullah, and I mean it's time to do something. And why not? I mean, I'm not saying Tion Green's the answer. I don't think Tion Green's this magical cure-all guy. I don't think that in like the slightest of incremental thoughts in my mind. But you know what? If you want to throw a wrecking ball out there, a guy who's bigger, a guy who, if he does get meat at the line of scrimmage, he can maybe fall forward for a yard or two instead of trying to cut and then fall forward for a yard. At this point, I don't care. You took this kid. Granted, you didn't draft him. He was, a free agent after the draft because no one drafted him. And like I said, at this point, throw it to the wall. Let's see if it sticks. Screw it. You did it with Zach Zenner last year. It worked to a point. Maybe it works again. But it's something, too, I think with this draft coming up, first round, going to be a defensive end. That's the only thing I can think of. It's going to be a defensive end because in the second round, you can get probably a guy like Bryce Love out of Stanford, Nick Chubb out of Georgia. You can get Darius Geis out of LSU.
I was thinking outside linebacker too because we don't have one. I mean, Paul Warlow and I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Reeves Maben isn't the guy. He might develop into a quality starter. I don't know. He was taken in the fourth round, so clearly he's projected as a depth and backup kind of guy. We need an outside linebacker. Paul Warlow, who I was excited to sign because he's consistent. He hasn't been that at all this year. Tahir Whitehead and Jared Davis, they're not getting it done either. It's just so you're right. It could be a running back in round 2. I personally would love to see a pass rusher or outside linebacker, productive outside linebacker in the first round. But who knows what they'll do, man? And Bob Quinn's probably got the wheels turning already.
Well, they need something. And granted, 2 weeks ago, you sacked Case Keenum twice for a loss of 10 yards. But like I said, last week, you didn't sack Joe Flacco once, and he's more of a statue in the pocket than Case Keenum is. So that's why I just think that if there's a good pass rusher, and granted, we haven't even looked at draft yet. I mean, we will on Lions SRD. It's something that we will talk about. We'll get into it. We'll mix it up. But I mean, you're right. I mean, they could take a quick outside linebacker, an elite outside linebacker, kind of like how Davis was a very solid middle linebacker. And, I mean, you never know. It could be something where something like that happens. But, yeah, I mean, it's at this point with the Lions season, I think the overarching theme of this podcast this week is put up or shut up. I mean, at this point, you talk about, having that sense of urgency and all that jazz, and, stranger things have happened. We can still be a playoff team. Like, I know Martha's never going to say this to Jim Caldwell because she likes him, but if I'm Bob Quinn, I'd say, look, if you don't make the playoffs, you're done. I will fire you on the spot, and if that means I'm fired too, so be it. Like, I don't care at this point. Because a guy like Bob Quinn's going to land somewhere. Cleveland just lost their GM. They fired him a day ago. He could go to Cleveland. He could do something. Like, at this time, like at this point, like that's what I would do. I would kind of have reckless abandon a little bit if I was Bob Quinn. Because at this point, if you're going to say all these things in front of the media, if you're going to say everything about how, it's coaching, I got to do better, put up or shut up. Because we're not going to, I can tell you this, we're not going to run down what the schedule is going to be like for the Lions. Why? Because you know what the schedule is going to be like for the Lions. You have a game against a bad Buccaneers team in Tampa Bay. You better as hell win that one. You have the Bears against, next week at home against Mitchell Trubisky. You know what he brings to the table. You can't lose that one. Probably now going to lose to the Bengals. Probably now going to lose to the Packers. But if you want to literally put up or shut up, go 4-0. Put up or shut up, go 4-0. Do it. Marty, I know that sometimes you like to throw in last-minute topics. Do you have anything this week? Anything crazy?
Yeah, the Lions announced today, Thursday afternoon, that they're going to move Quandre Diggs to safety to play with alongside Glover Quinn. I think that's a brilliant idea. Who's going to take his place? I'm assuming it's going to be Tabor, I would guess. I'm glad to see Quandre Diggs. He's going to be a starter now because with the injury to Tavon Wilson, and he's playing safety. And I think that's very smart. He might rotate in and out with Killebrew. I don't know. But I did see that they made that announcement today. So other than that, I didn't really see anything noteworthy.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Diggs is going to play safety. He played safety last week with Wilson being out. And he did. He did a good enough job. Deserves another week at it. Might as well at this point. And it was either him or Tabor, in my opinion. We all know what I think of Tabor. I think he's slow, and because he's slow, give him a full 11 yards behind the line of scrimmage and see what he can do. See if he can ball hawk or knock someone on their butt. But outside of that, Marty, quickly, game prediction against the Buccaneers. Win, lose, or draw, what do you think happens?
Man, I'm going to say win for the sheer fact that I'm hoping that Stafford's going to play, and I'm hoping that not Tabor, Tion Green's going to get the start. And he's going to kind of hopefully somewhat rectify that running game, not fix it because you can't fix it with one player, but hopefully he'll make it at least a little better. So I'm going to lightly predict a win here. I don't have very much confidence in it if Stafford doesn't play. But I'm going to say we're going to beat the Bucs 17-13.
Well, if you're wrong, you're going to get tarred and feathered next week. No, I'm totally kidding. No, but I think no matter what, Jameis Winston's probably playing in this game. He's looked healthy, and even when he's not, you still have Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, so take that what you will. Fitzpatrick's not bad in any way, shape, or form. So I think Tampa Bay gets it, and the Lions can shut up about playoffs because your hopes are officially done at that point. I don't care what anyone else does because you need a lot of help, and the NFL is not helping. The NFL is not looking to help you. They're looking to help themselves. So the only way to do that, 4-0 at this point. But I don't think they will.
But
no.
I think you're right. They're definitely going to lose if Stafford's out. But if he plays, we at least have somewhat of a margin of victory. But we'll see how it goes. But I'm gonna lightly predict a win.
In all seriousness, though, like I said, you have to help yourselves, and if not, you have to hope that there's changes, and you hope that Martha really wants to put a winner on in the field because she has a championship caliber general manager, and who knows? Maybe something changes. Maybe something does, but like I said, you never know. Outside of that, we have nothing else to add. I'm Ben Salagi.
I'm Marty Stouffer.
And we say goodnight.